Today on Guess What I Found Out, your biology teacher lied to you. Not on purpose, probably. But they handed you a tidy little diagram, told you how dominant and recessive genes work, pointed at your earlobes as proof, and sent you home thinking you had genetics figured out. You did not have genetics figured out. Nobody did. But today, you will. Here is the quick version of what you were taught. A guy named Gregor Mendel, patron saint of awkward garden hobbies, crossbred over 28,000 pea plants in the 1800s. He noticed that traits like seed shape, flower colour and plant height were passed down in predictable ratios. One parent has purple flowers, one has white flowers. All their kids have purple flowers, but a quarter of the grandkids are white. Clean, elegant, reproducible. He proposed that hereditary factors come in pairs, one from each parent, and that one version, the dominant one, masks the other. Boom! The Punnett square was born. Genetics class was born. Your childhood confusion about blood types was born. And to be clear, Mendel was not wrong. He described something real. The molecular explanation for his purple and white peas is genuinely beautiful. The dominant allele encodes a working enzyme in the anthocyanin pigment pathway, and the recessive allele encodes a broken one. No working enzyme, no pigment, white flower. Simple, mechanistic, satisfying. But here is where your teacher got a little too comfortable with the PowerPoint. Mendel's peas worked out so cleanly because he, by extraordinary luck or extraordinary patience, chose the 7 traits that actually followed simple rules. Most traits in nature don't. Most human traits definitely don't. Take eye colour. You were probably taught that brown is dominant and blue is recessive. 2 blue-eyed parents can only have blue-eyed children, right? Nope, wrong, incorrect. Scientists have now identified roughly 169 genes linked to pigmentation, with at least 10 having a significant effect on eye colour. What makes your eyes brown or blue is partly about how much melanin gets deposited in the collagen fibres of your iris, and partly about how those fibres scatter light. Low melanin leaves the fibres white, and the way they scatter light is what makes eyes look blue. It's structural colour, like a butterfly wing. Your blue eyes are not actually blue. They are a physics trick. And if that makes you question everything, good. Hit that like button and hold on. The same complexity applies to hair colour. Over 120 genes influence it. Red hair, which teachers love to call recessive, is not going anywhere. It pops back up across generations, not because it's hiding behind a dominant allele, but because dozens of loci are involved, each contributing a little nudge in one direction or another. Incomplete dominance can produce blends. Codominance can produce both traits side by side. The idea that one allele simply beats another into silence is the exception, not the recipe. And then there are the classic textbook examples that turned out to be, let's say, enthusiastically wrong. Tongue rolling, taught for decades as a textbook dominant trait, except studies found that about 20% of kids who couldn't roll their tongue at age 6 could do it by age 12. And identical twins who share the same DNA sometimes differ on this. That is not a dominant gene. That is a skill. Your genetics teacher was testing your practice, not your chromosomes. Earlobe attachment. Now, a 2021 genome-wide study of more than 74,000 people found at least 49 genetic regions influencing earlobe shape. 49, not 1. And, well, the result isn't binary. It's a continuous spectrum. Your earlobes aren't just free or attached. They exist somewhere on a dial with 49 hands turning it. Cheek dimples, cleft chins, also complex. Also, not a single dominant allele calling the shots. Honestly, the list of textbook examples that have crumbled under actual research is long enough to be, well, a bit embarrassing. Now, Curious George, there are traits that do still follow simple rules. and they're worth knowing. Wet versus dry earwax. That's largely one gene, two alleles. Done. Red-green color blindness, that's X-linked recessive, which means it lives on the X chromosome and hits males harder because men have one X and one Y. If your one X carries the broken copy of the gene, there's no backup. Women with two X chromosomes have a spare. This is also why orange cats are almost always male. The orange coat color gene sits on the X chromosome. Males get one copy. Whatever it says, that's what they are. Cilantro is another fun one. Whether cilantro tastes like soap to you is tied to a single nucleotide variant in an olfactory receptor gene that makes some people more sensitive to the aldehyde compounds in the herb. But here is the twist. Having that variant doesn't mean you'll hate cilantro. If you grew up in a culture where cilantro was everywhere, in every dish, woven into your food memories, your brain can learn to interpret those compounds as delicious. Genotype sets your sensitivity. Culture and experience decide whether you enjoy the ride. This is the whole point, honestly. Phenotype, the trait you actually express, is not just genes. It's genes plus environment, plus development, plus culture, plus a dash of randomness. Genetic determinism, the idea that your DNA is your destiny, is not just philosophically troubling. It's scientifically inaccurate. Hold on, we're almost there. Epistasis is the term scientists use for when one gene's behavior depends on what's happening at another gene entirely. With dozens or hundreds of genes in play for any given trait, interactions multiply fast. A Punnett square with two boxes becomes a probability cloud with 100 variables. It's not that the old model was wrong. It's that the old model was a two-dimensional sketch of a three-dimensional, deeply weird, surprisingly beautiful system. Mendel gave us the foundation. He earned his cathedral window. But genetics education that stops at dominant and recessive is like explaining the internet by describing how light travels through a fiber optic cable. Technically true, missing approximately everything. If you want more of the science behind the things you thought you already understood, follow Guess What I Found Out. And drop your answer in the comments. Did you grow up being taught any of these textbook genetics facts? Which one are you most annoyed to find out was wrong? I genuinely want to know.